Hello, hello, everyone. First and foremost, I want to let everyone know that we record so that other people can enjoy our conversations and we can invite others to join us based off of what they've seen. We are so excited. This is our second month of our new show, More Than Our Sickle Cell. It's not that we don't talk about sickle cell, but we talk about so much more. It is not unusual for us to talk about some of the stuff that's not being talked about. And we have just very transparent, open conversations. This is a safe zone. And so feel free to have those open conversations, respectfully, of course. But it's important that we provide a space where some of the things that we don't talk enough about are being said. But more importantly, we are bringing the global community together under one show so that we can make sure that we are focusing on what we have in common far more than what we have different. Like, we have way more in common. So we are excited to get to know every one of you. But first, I want to introduce my co-host, and my co-host is going to introduce our guest. So my co-host of this show is Miss Biba Tinga, the one and only Miss Biba Tinga. She is the Executive Director and President of Sickle Cell Disease Association of Canada. And she is going to tell us all about herself because she is not a Canadian by birth. So tell us all about yourself.
Thank you, dear friend. So welcome everyone. Yeah, so I'm a warrior mom, and my son was born in sub-Saharan Africa in a country called Niger, one of the hottest countries in the world. I believe yesterday they had 41 degrees Celsius. So imagine the heat there. We immigrated in Canada about 20 years ago. So we now live in the French-speaking part of Canada, where as a warrior mom, I started, being very involved in the community. And then that's how I became, an advocate and the president of the Sickle Cell Disease Association of Canada. So today, I'm really, really happy to be here because the topic that we're going to discuss is one of my favorites. One is just talking about our lived experience, our journey with, caring for somebody living with sickle cell disease. And I'm very pleased to introduce our guests. Our guest today is a warrior mom, just like us, another mama. And she's also a Canadian, just like me, but we just don't live in the same province. We are 3 hours apart, just for you to have an idea how big Canada is. It's 7 p.m. here. It's only 4 p.m. in Vancouver, where she's joining us from, in British Columbia. So she's a mom. She has 2 girls, and her oldest daughter was also born with sickle cell disease. I'm going to let her share all that. But the reason why I want her to be our first guest here is because I've been in her life. I've been her friend, her sister, for a couple of years now. I believe we've met in 2012. So it's been a long time. Yes, in Montreal, the first time when we learned ACDC.
Yes.
And, So I've seen, you grow into your role, and also your daughter now, who is 19. And we've had similar journeys, and we share a lot, and we talk, and we support each other, and we encourage each other. And then I think this is what is beautiful about this journey, right? If you can have those peers who have been there before you, or at the same times, or along living the same reality, and you can have this exchange with them, it's one of the most helpful tips that I've had. So welcome, Adobie. Thanks for agreeing to come and be with us today. Then Ray, back to you, and you're gonna let her talk.
So I just so love this platform. So many of you know, but for those who don't, I am the mother of a young adult warrior. My son will be 27 next month. We were just chatting about that, 27. And my friend Biba and I met a few years back now at a conference, Sickle Cell Disease Association of America. And, we just clicked. It was like sisterhood, yes. And we have remained connected. And even when time passes in between our chats, because we're both very busy, we both being warrior moms, we reconnect like we never lost any time. And, we all need people like that in our lives. I want to make sure everybody knows this isn't just for mothers. This isn't just for caregivers. This is for warriors. This is for warrior parents. This is for warrior siblings. This is for people who care about someone who has sickle cell disease. This is a platform where, again, I'll repeat, we are bringing the global community together to talk about our shared experiences, to walk one another through places in life that we've already been or that we are headed to going. And, you know, what I learned, something I learned when I was right around 25, I probably should have learned it earlier. I learned, you know what, I don't have to get bumps on my head. I can look at the bumps on other people and learn the same lesson. And so I started to surround myself with more people who had the experiences that would help me to make better choices. Go ahead, Biba.
I think that's how you can identify smart people in life, right? If you are able to live like that and, you know, have that life philosophy to say, I will look at other people's mistakes or successes and then make sure that, you know, I can walk faster or I can avoid to make that mistake me too, then that's very good. And especially in this difficult journey that we are going through, you need this type of behavior.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting is we all have children who are now, you know, legally considered adult, right? So, you know, we could talk about transition in clinical care, but let's start out talking about just transition in the way you parent, right? Because the people who are online here are adults. So whether you are the parent or you are the person who reached adulthood as a warrior or in whatever situation that you're in, you know, life began to look different. And the way you interacted with your parents or with your children also began to look different. And what did that feel like, right? Letting them grow up, letting them make their decisions. We're talking about making mistakes and learning from others. It takes a minute before they get to that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Adobie?
Yeah, tell us all about it.
Yes, introduce yourself and tell us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adobie. I am living right now in BC, Vancouver. I came to Canada 19 years ago, and the day I arrived, my daughter had a sickle cell crisis. We came from Venezuela, and the next day we found out she had sickle cell anemia. My daughter is 19 years old. Her name is Adobie, and I never heard of sickle cell before that. So it was very overwhelming situation to be in, to be a mom. I had no family coming to Canada, so it was just me and my ex-husband at the time. And to get this information on the day that you basically arrive in Canada, it was mind-blowing. My daughter's 19 now, all grown up. We've had a lot of crises, and thanks to people like Miss Biba, I tell you it. Oh, Miss Biba, I want to make it through a lot, and still, my daughter's 19, and I'm still going through the struggles. And Miss Biba is the first person I text or call for support. And I think that's one of the things that more parents need is more support. I know a lot of the warriors, they have a lot of support, and we support the warriors, but to be honest, who's really supporting us other than our family sometimes, and other warrior moms? It's really hard for other warrior moms to really connect. I would say that when I came here, I wanted to reach out. So I got the newspapers to help me find other moms with sickle cell, which did work. And I planned picnics. I had picnics every summer. I did this with the BC Children's Hospital. One of the nurses was really good in helping me getting families together. And I did that for a few years until I actually founded the Sickle Cell Organization of BC.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that's fabulous. So the Sickle Cell Foundation of BC.
Sickle Cell Association of BC.
Sickle Cell Association. And
BC,
how old was your daughter when she was diagnosed?
She was 7 months old.
Okay, yeah, that's about the time that they start having crisis. Yeah.
My son was diagnosed at the exact same age. Crisis happens at 6 months, and by the time we get the diagnosis, he was 7 months. Exactly. Because that's when the fetal hemoglobin starts changing, right?
Yes,
exactly.
The first crisis occurs.
Yeah.
And it's funny how most of the parents end up, getting into advocacy and either creating an organization like the two of you, or like me, just getting involved into organization and then, running them. So the reason why I always wonder, I said, well, why is it that everybody thinks that? But guess what? It's because there is a need. There is there is a lack of resources, lack of support, and you look around and you're looking for something. And what do? If it's not there, then I'll do it myself. I'll create it for myself and for others.
Yes.
There is a need. And in this journey, yesterday we're talking because we are only mothers. I wish we had a dad. Maybe a dad would join us at some point. But I was reading somewhere recently, and I saw a study that was done in the US, actually in America, that said that 40.7% of caregivers report having one or more chronic disease. And not that they are born with it, but they end up developing that disease because of the burden of caring for somebody with any type of condition. And in our case, it's sickle cell disease. That means that caring for somebody who has a chronic disease increase your risk of developing yourself other chronic diseases. And I'm sure if we were to share our personal diagnosis here, we've all been through our shares, of medical issues. So that's why it's important for us to share our experience so that those coming after us learn from it, or those who are at the beginning of the journey can use this information to avoid,
You said something really powerful, because Adobie, you said that, caring for our children is one thing, but who's caring for us?
Yeah.
And I'm 50 years old. My son will be 27. So I've spent the last 20 some years just kind of reflecting on that, because a lot of people don't understand, right? So it can be very isolating at times, or I'll be honest, there's times that I don't want to explain again what sickle cell is. I'm tired of explaining, but seriously, and yet that's also part of this journey to make sure that we have the support that we need. Yeah. And I learned early on, one of the things, whether you're a caregiver or whether you are a warrior, or whether you are someone with neither who just goes through life and has to deal with challenges and the ups and downs. I would love to have support from lots of different people where I may not get it, but I also learned that I have to adjust my expectations. Not everybody is able to provide that level of support. And I learned that just because they are not, within my support system doesn't mean that they're not in my circle. Doesn't mean that there's not interactions that still feel good, that still can be healthy. Rather, we just go out to eat, right? Just do something fun. We might never talk about sickle cell, right? But they're still there. And whether they understand it or not, just having your village, having your tribe, feels supportive. And that's what we do in this community. We find one another. And that's really what I love about it. We are not alone when we think about the fact that there are other parents, there are other children, there are other warriors who also feel alone. And when we connect, we kind of remove that aloneness because someone else that can relate. We don't have to explain what sickle cell is.
No, we don't. We don't. And the most important thing is that we need to understand that we need that tribe, because if you don't have that type of support, whatever it is, if the person brings social support, like emotional, whatever type of support that you receive from different group of people, different networks, you have to get it, because you need to maintain your health and your well-being so that you can be a good caregiver. Otherwise, you can't care for the person that is suffering physically. For me, I know that we're going to talk about our adult kids, but I have to really go back and say that I remember when my son was growing up, I was more present because he was younger and he needed me. Not now that he can go to the hospital alone. And every time he was in pain, every time he was hurting, every time he was expressing the pain or crying or going through really complication, that pain in his body will just travel through my heart and break it. And as I start getting older now, I realize that I am less stronger. I used to be stronger. I used to be able to deal with his crisis, go to work, care with for the siblings and continue. But now it looks like when there is a crisis, I have to stop. I have to drop a few things because I'm not able to manage, because I'm scared, because he's getting older. My son turned 35 2 days ago. So the older he gets, I thought, oh, it will be easier. No, forget about it. So for that, I think it's important that we all realize that this is a long-term battle that we're in. It's a lifetime one. As long as, the disease is not going to go anywhere. So how do we learn to manage it for them and also for ourselves? And so I wanted to talk. And I think we, the caregivers, are also going through a public health issue, but nobody is talking about it yet. But it is a public health issue. The health of the caregivers there has to be more investment on us so that we care, because the disease doesn't have enough resources anywhere in the world. The US, Canada, Trinidad, anywhere you go, caregivers are left. You don't even receive psychological support when you receive the diagnosis, which in some situation is a death sentence. In my case, it was. Oh, they won't live longer, or you won't live to be 5 or 15. And then after that, you deal with all the emotional turmoil that you go on. Nobody comes to say, hey, how are you doing?
Right.
What do you need? No, they would come to you to say, how can I help you for your child? But not the parent. So that's why, as Mother's Day is approaching, we thought we, the mothers, should come here and talk and share that. It's been a journey and it's been a difficult one. And we have to acknowledge that, and we would like for society to know that this is a public health issue. And we, as you mentioned earlier, Ray, it is Mental Health Month now. Our mental health has been challenged.
Yes, yes.
So while maybe we don't have a mental illness, we might have mental health issues sometimes in our lives. When you're tired, when you're depressed, when you're scared, when you have anxiety because of the situation, the lack of treatment option, or simply because your loved one has been stigmatized before because of sickle cell.
Yeah.
So Adobie, what I want to ask you is, we're raising boys, you're raising a girl. Is there a difference? Because the girls are more, they will express more their pains and their concerns, and especially when she's a young woman now. So tell us about it. Is it different? How did you go through that? But most importantly, transition. How did you let it go? Because boys become more independent early on. By 12 years old, they go with their friends. They don't need you. They will not come and cuddle sometimes.
Not all of them, Biba. But many of them. Some of them.
Well, let's hear from Adobie, then I will hear from you, then Ray.
I would say, as for Adobie, she's always been close to me. She would, if she's going in a crisis, she'll always give me the heads up. Yeah. Normally I would look at her and she will just come in my bed. Even at 19, she's having a crisis. She's not feeling well. She's in my bed. She's not getting out of that bed until she feels better. Even if I tell her, go to your room, you have your own room now, I will come there, I'll look at you. Nope. She will stay in my bed until she gets better, or unless if we have to go to the hospital. I've always tell Adobie to make sure that she let me know, so we're good with that communication. The next thing is, though my daughter and I struggle because I never do sleepovers. That has been a big issue for us. There's no sleepover.
Is it because you are scared that she might be in crisis while at somebody's house and not get the proper care?
Yes, that is my big reason. Even on to 19, I tell her, like, there's no sleepover. I said, because I don't trust, it's not you, it's just the people around you. They might not understand what to do, because not every parent that your kids have friends with, take the time to understand what sickle cell is, to give your child that little bit of attention.
How does she feel about that? Like, we know as a parent how we feel, but how does she feel about that?
Tell us.
She hates it.
Exactly.
She hates it.
Yes.
And it's like, half of the time you cannot walk, because most of her crisis is always in her legs, right? Or the back. And sometimes she can't even get the words out, I'm in pain. So I'm like, those instances, I have to be there to literally carry you, because I'm putting her on my back and I'm carrying her to the car. right? Because
Wow.
the hospital that she's assigned to is out of our city. So I have to drive to another city to get to her hospital. So
Wow.
if I call the ambulance, they come in and take her to the closest one, and we still have to go through transition to get to the other one.
Yes.
So what's the point? For me, I just carry her, put her in the car,
And
and I'm
go.
off to the hospital. So that's something right now we still have issue with, the sleeping over thing. That's my one rule. Go
Yeah.
wherever you want, but come home. If you're living on your own,
Travel? Does she travel?
uh not really, not unless if
So when
it's
she does, they're always together.
we're always together.
Ah,
Yeah.
We're always
ah.
Because every
together.
time she travels, they are always together.
Yeah.
I want you to come back to something because a couple of years ago, I visited you in BC, right? And I
Mhm.
remember you were driving me to the airport, and then you opened the trunk of your car to put my suitcase, and I saw that you were fully packed as if you were traveling. Remember? And I asked you what's all this stuff in the car. Please share that with us here.
That is my grab to go bag. I have
Yes.
everything in that bag in my car. I have like anything that I would need. If I need a book, mostly I just have like some exercise stuff that I can exercise, because that's how I deal with the whole sickle cell issue. I need a little bit of time to think, to register. So workout is more my thing. Everything you can think about. I have like food in case I need food, like little crunchy stuff to eat, stuff that I need to be there, and I don't really have to go anywhere, because for the first few days, I like to be close to my daughter to support her, because most of the time she either crying or the medication is so much she's like totally passed out, and I still like to be there because the level of medication she's receiving. But yeah, my grab to go bag, it's like always, always, always. I can change my whole outfit from right there. I can
And
change.
not every parent has that, because all the diseases you might not need it. You might maybe get the time to go home and prepare. But this also is something that is a reality in the sickle cell world, that crises are unpredictable. You can be at work and they will call you, and from work you go straight to the hospital if you don't have a support system or someone to go to your house and grab stuff for you. So you have to prepare. And I remember you had the baby at the daycare. Sometimes you told me that you will grab the baby from the daycare and then go to the hospital to
Oh yeah.
and stay for days without
Oh
going
yeah.
home.
We camping out.
Yeah, I remember when my son was 19 and he went off to college, and it was the first time he was in a situation where he needed to go to the hospital without me, and he was 2 hours away, and I was on an airplane. I was boarding an airplane, and that was probably one of the worst experiences that I had. Not only was I not where he was, but I'm on an airplane where I can't even contact him. I can't even get updates.
Yeah.
He can't text me to let me know what's going on. And it ended up being one of the worst crises of his life. He actually ended up being put into a coma for 2 weeks because it was so bad. So I can absolutely relate. But you know what that situation did? It caused me to take a step back and say, there is no possible way that I can guarantee I'm going to be around 100% of the time. And I have to make sure that he feels prepared, that he feels like that he knows what to do. And it's not because he wasn't there every time, I was advocating for him, when he was small all the way up to that point. But, our kids rely on the fact that we've always been there. They rely on the fact that we know, how to articulate their pain. We know how to articulate their challenges more than they can typically in that moment of pain, right? Because if I'm in the kind of pain that I see my son in, and you're asking me a million questions, 3 times you asked me that already. I told you what I took before I got here. Yeah. The level of frustration that brings to the body while you're going through a crisis, right? So it was never that I wanted to be that helicopter mom and take over, but I also didn't think that our healthcare system was built to really understand what it means to be in that amount of pain and yet have to jump through these hoops to be seen. You need someone. That's why advocacy. That's how easy it is for us to go from being a parent to an advocate to a a community leader to a community-based organization, because we basically had to be doing that since day one.
You got to be everything. That's
You
what
gotta be it.
yes,
I got a
you gotta
hat
be the
that
nurse.
I put it to the side this way, and then I put it to the side that way. We wear multiple hats.
Yes.
I do know KW wanted to say something. KW, if you can unmute, if you are able to get on camera, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, you can put your question or comment in the chat. And others, oh, wonderful. There's KW. Others, if you have questions, comments, you can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand. So we know. Go ahead.
We want to hear from you.
Okay, so I just wanted to
introduce yourself.
jump in. Well, I'm KW Young from the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago to be specific. I'm actually in a caregivers planning meeting at the same time. So that's why I'm gonna come to this meeting focused now. But I just want to tell you all that the ability to release care whilst you give care is your best care, especially for your self-care. I'm saying it purposely like that because caregivers like sickle cell trait are the most important components. There's no sickle cell person without a sickle cell caregiver. There's no sickle cell disease without sickle cell trait. As Farandosi and I said one time, know your trait and know your fate. So as you ladies are sitting here, and I know you guys always outnumber the men, but we want to be around the old. Please know that. We always want to be around the old. But the thing is that the caregiving is not overlooked. I think caregivers are quiet. I think purposely so as well. And we have to encourage them to understand that they're a critical component in the wheel that keeps us living. I'm a baby at 62. My mom at 95. I caregive for her, but mentally she still thinks, what if I get ill? And you know, it never stops. So my dad was my independence champion. My mom was my, cuddle you, do this for you champion. So she taught me how to receive care. My dad taught me how to, he taught me how to ask for it. My mom, I can't remember how I say it, but they both contributed different components to my independence. All right. So, but my dad is the person who said, one day you have to leave home and take everything by yourself. Telling my mother this, so leave him alone at around 12, 14 years old. And I told him when I want to go to the hospital and so on. And it's important to be comfortable. I'm talking to Adobie, Miss McAllister, don't know bastard their first name, but go take your daughter to sleep or put your phone on direct dial, something, because she'll be happy with your care now, but those things that she missed will always be in the back of her mind. And you'll be surprised to know how she get her community to gather around her, because we have a way of being quietly, what's the word, boy? We draw people to us quietly. And those who really can understand this, our best caregivers, those who immerse in our lives, not the ones we talk to a lot. Immersion is the best way to learn about us, how your body forms, when you're not feeling well. I might say I'm doing fine, and then somebody will say, I know him, he's not well. Let's let him slow down a little bit. All right. And that's the only way her friends would know that, if you allow them to be around her and allow her to take all the loving that you've given her and strengthen her. So let me just be quiet now. I just want to share that.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
You want to say something, Adobie? Because this is somebody who is like walking the walk, and he's telling you from experience.
Okay, that is something that I definitely will think about. That is a really good takeaway for me. I must say my daughter had a crisis two days ago, and she went to the hospital. I wasn't around. She went to the hospital by herself, and she phoned me, and I think she had her boyfriend and her friend there with her. The first thing she said, "Mom, I'm having a crisis. I'm at the hospital, and I miss you. I just miss your presence." And I'm like, "Okay, you got this." She's like, "Yeah." But the decision she made after the pain went down a little bit, after she received medication, she left.
but that's okay.
That's okay. That's part of
That's
the
okay.
journey. That's part of the journey.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's part of the
So
journey.
can I say something? So
Yes.
one of the things that, first and foremost, I give my son so much credit for helping me to understand, you know, what it is to be a man with sickle cell and the challenges and the heart wrenching, soul stirring challenge of trying to be a man while feeling dependent on others, not feeling like you can always be the protector and, you know, struggling with that. But one of the things that I also learned early on is that I can't hold him back from discovering what quality of life means for him. And if I keep him from doing things because I'm afraid, I teach him to be afraid of his sickle cell too. And I don't want him to live in fear. I can't do this because I might have a sickle cell crisis. You're right, you might, but you might not.
True.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to form his mind around this idea that he needed to limit himself to how he lived because of his sickle cell. He might do the same thing his peers do, but he might do it differently. It might take him longer to do it. It might even take him shorter to do it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the reality that he deserved to define his quality of life, and he deserved to be able to make choices that allowed him to feel like he was contributing to society, to feel like he had a place in this society became very important. And there would be times that I would, you know, now he's 27 and I'll be like, go ahead, you don't need me. But there were times that when I was working on letting go, I would say what I needed to say, do what I had to do, and then I'd be in the bathroom crying, like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Oh my God. Right? That's par for the course. That's the journey. We are all on a journey, whether you're the person with sickle cell disease or the caregiver. We're on these journeys that teach us about ourselves and teach us about that other person.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I want to share with you is that I know your daughter, right? I saw her growing up. And what I know for sure is that you've done an excellent job raising an independent, you know, strong Black girl. So now you have to trust yourself and you have to trust her and know that you've done a good job. She will make the right decision and she will take good care of herself the way she saw you care for her. Her calling you to tell you, I miss you, it's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to come, but she wanted to know that she's here because she knows that if you have to, if it's necessary, you will show up. But then at that very moment, she was just giving you an information, and I miss you, because she was in pain and she needed the comfort. So one of the things that I had to walk do myself was that it depends on how you view life. You know, there is a reality that we have to deal with, you know, is the fear of losing those kids. And regardless of what we do, it can happen someday. And if it happens because of a medical reason, there is nothing you can do. Either you're present physically or not. So what I've chosen to do is to make sure that we are always good. No matter what happens, our relationship is excellent. The communication line is open. I know I do my best. So in that situation. So I think that's what is more important for me than just, you know, making sure that I am always the one doing everything. So what I've chosen to do is to...
Let's be honest, Biba, we made mistakes along the way. We tripped up, right? I don't want you to think that
exactly. And what I've done that I think was very brilliant is that when I see people around him, good new friends, colleagues, I talk a lot about the disease. I invite them to events. And guess what happened? When he started working after a few years, one day I went to pick him up and one of the colleagues says, oh, I'm off tomorrow and I would really love to be the one to go with him for his blood exchange. I want to see how it is. I was like, okay, you're going to take your day off to go to He goes, yeah, I'll pick him up, I'll go. You don't have to go. For years, I stopped going because I was the one to go with him, sit there, bring him back home, make sure he has food, he's in bed. I stopped going. His friends and colleagues took over. Why? Because him and I did a good job educating them, And then he created his own support system. So maybe it's good that those friends are there. But what you should do though, is make sure that they know what to do. So maybe she might not be able to have the right words to educate them. You have to cook a good meal, have them around the table, chat with them, and make sure that they know what to do exactly. And then you can be
around in order to see what to do. Like until you see it for yourself, you can be told what a crisis is like. But boy, oh boy, until you've been present, that's when it really hits home. So that those friends who may not know what to do, that's how they learn what to do too.
Yeah.
The good thing, one of her friends, Ryan, he's been friends with her for a couple of years now. So when I heard his voice in the background, I was like, okay, I know he will do his best to do whatever it is she needs. He is a bulldog. He will fight with anybody if it needs to come. When it comes to her, he's super protective. So I know she was okay, so I didn't really have to go rushing off or do anything. I let her bring the information to me. I let her come to me, let her update me, right? I let her come to me instead of me going to her. I told her, I was like, okay, this is the decision you're making to go home. I said, you could have a little relapse, but just rest, drink your water, try to drink your medication, you know, just try to do your best to take care of yourself now. So I leave it all in her hands. The next day I check up. I was like, hey, how you feeling? Oh, it's getting better. It's getting better. I was like, okay. So I give no pressure. Like for her decision, I give no pressure.
Does she live away from you or with you?
Yes, right now she's living away from me.
Well, look at that. She's spending the night away. She's spending the night away.
Yes. On her own. She's out. She's out.
That's right. So give yourself some credit. Give yourself some credit. Yeah. Listen, it's harder for us than it is for them.
Yeah.
Period. Yes. It is, because we love them, and we have protected to the greatest extent that we've been able to since they came out of our womb. You know.
Let me tell you. Oh, and we'll go to you, son, and KW. We'll go to you soon. So one of the things sometimes when I'm like complaining or I'm trying to stress him, then he goes, you know what? I know what I'm doing, right? So you know, you don't have to stress. And I'm the one who is like, you know, going through this, and I know. And you know what I tell him? I say to him, you don't have a child. You are not a parent yet, so you cannot tell me the type of pain I'm going through. But I have an idea of the type of pain that's going in your body. So we go through this argument. And the first time I said that, then I did check myself. I'm like, whoa, mama, you're going too far right there. But I wanted him to understand that our type of pain is different. So that's what you're feeling, you know, the stress, you know, being scared, you know, and not being able to let go. That's normal because you are a mama. And for her, it's the physical pain that she's going through. So both of you are in pain, but in a different way.
So what I also love is we have warriors on who have or who have a spouse, or they are the person with sickle cell disease, and their caregiver is their spouse. You know, or we have tons of young people who have been the caregiver to their parent with sickle cell disease, right? The caregiver isn't always the mom, but the stressors that we feel because it's someone we love, that shows up no matter how we fit in as the caregiver. KW, I don't want to miss out on what you have to say.
Is he coming on?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm coming up. I'm not going anywhere. There's so much I wanted to say, but I just want to give a reference as to what I've transitioned from being a cared for to a caregiver in a community, but my sister lived with sickle cell trait. She's in her late 50s, and today she was at the hospital, one of her young charges. Nothing related to sickle cell disease, except that she has very trait. She's had high blood pressure, so I called and I said, listen, how long have you been there? I'll come relieve you because I understand the intensity of the A&E. And for you all who live with sickle cell trait, when they're under stress, they could have urine and blood in the urine, which means the kidneys could be affected, yes? And I've had a couple instances where I had to talk to doctors and say, listen, check her because she is a 50-plus woman, intense job, teenager, sickle cell trait. And I said, no, sickle cell trait is not this. I said, check and then dismiss my concerns. Don't dismiss without checking.
Mhm.
And when they check, they realize that there's a possibility. The point I'm making is that we who live with the condition, we transfer that care. And as a man, it's important that men generally, not necessarily with the condition, see themselves as caregivers as well, even though most women are in the forefront.
Yeah.
The pain that you all have been, well, this might sound like a crazy thing. Two things. Parents who have children with sickle cell disease, you all have been blessed with a journey that most parents would never have. And that's because the condition builds an installation, an emotional installation in the persons that you care for. That's why we are so independent, so stubborn, so all the things that you find
Y'all are stubborn. Let me put that out
difficult.
there
Yeah.
again. Y'all are
But
stubborn.
so let me tell you a couple of quick stories that allows us to be stubborn and for caregivers to understand. First thing, at my age, most of the crises I've had overseas, my dad is deceased now, so he would never find out. Maybe I'll tell my mom. But I've had, so my dad taught me to be interdependent. My mom taught me to be independent. So my dad taught me to ask as I receive. And that's what I was trying to get to you all. And my mom taught me to be independent in terms of, well, you know the difference. So I found myself several times here in the island, because we have 2 islands, 1 country. For example, I was working at a conference with the company I worked with many years ago, and I got a crisis, favorite time, midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. Those are the times the crisis I to creep up in here. I drove myself to the hospital and took crisis from head to foot, checked myself in the A&E, went back to the hotel, called one of the persons running the place where all the administration is done. They were sitting with me as a secretary, sitting with me for most of the time the day before. So they saw I was the audiovisual person. They ran my desk out the first 4 hours of the conference. In pain, after my pain level came down, not ended, I was making this is a very important point. There's operational pain and there's normal pain, and there's pain that we can't do anything with. So I was in operational pain, so I was able to walk slowly, look as though, I've messed in my pants, because that is the kind of pain I was in, but my brain allowed me to function. You all will not see or understand why it's possible, but it's important for us to conquer those moments when it gets worse. I'm saying this in retrospect now. I just felt I need to do it at that time. Then there's pain, like I've been potential avian avascular necrosis for maybe 30 years. Most times my back would pain, but not painful enough to stop me. And that's normal pains. When you hear say terms like normal, I'm sure you'll have heard that term. And probably wonder what kind of crazy thing is that there's nothing like normal pain. Is either you have pain or you don't have pain, but it's normal pain first. So the brain, whilst we are predisposed to depression and all the ranges of feelings that can happen, because if it moves from acute to chronic pain, then that chronic pain is continuous. And we will not tell you all that we're in pain, not because we're trying to hide, but because we can function. And so, Adobie, your daughter leaving hospital, there's something called DAMA, discharge against medical advice. I stand accused and for at least 100 times during my life. But I've gone back to hospital a couple of times and to show the doctors I'm fine.
Yeah.
Because they are doctors who are worse than you all, They want to know that you're absolutely out of pain before you leave the hospital. And those are like 1 in probably 100,000. I'm just exaggerating, but they are those who are deeply caring.
Yeah.
So you all have to fashion this, and like I think Biba, you're saying that, Adobie, you said you one of the voices in the background was a friend. If she has a boyfriend, that's your best friend now, Adobie.
Yeah, and exactly.
Even if he doesn't last into marriage and so on, he's your best friend.
Yes.
Because the fact that he's excited
hold on.
to be
Stop
around
it right there.
Sorry.
There is something you said, and I want us to get back to that. You used one word when you were talking about your parents. You used the word independent. Independent. So yes, we have to raise them. We have I think your parents did an excellent job. That's why you're here today sharing, making this testimony. So independence.
But one sec, Biba, just understand this is only less than 10 years I'm in this zone. I'm highly accused of not speaking out. So I don't want to make it appear as I've been doing this for years and years.
Oh,
and years.
okay. Well, that's good. That's
I'm one of those who's speaking out is like 4 years. So that's what I let you all know. It's not a long time.
But that's good. That's good. I'm glad that you are doing it now. So independence, let's talk about it. And Adobie, I want to talk to you because you know that you've raised that girl to be strong and to be independent, right?
Mm-hmm.
She started a business at 16 years old.
Oh, yes.
Because on her hospital bed, because she realized that at 16, everybody's getting their first job. She's not going to be able to go and stand into McDonald's or, those fast food chains and stand for hours. So she said, how am I going to be able to make money just like anybody else, but also be able to stay home or be in the hospital for my care? And that's when she created. So I would like for you to talk about it because I am so proud. I've been sharing it and I've been making her work for us. And her business is linked to sickle cell directly.
I want to hear all about it.
Yeah.
Let's
talk about it.
Let's see.
Okay. Basically, my daughter had a crisis, and we were actually going to Children's Hospital in the ambulance because we went to one hospital and we end up having to go to her assigned hospital. And she heard me explaining to the paramedics like what sickle cell is and what she's going through at that current time and moment. And she's like, Mom, at that time she started working at 14 because I wanted her to, know some responsibility and see what it would be like to live a life of having sickle cell, able to work one day and then few days you can't work. She actually got let go because she had sickle cell and she had a back-to-back crisis, and she was a waitress and they let her go. And I remember she came home crying and she's like, Mom, they let me go. I was like, honey, you didn't lose anything. You gained knowledge. You understand? They're the one who lose a good worker. I said, you didn't lose anything. That's not the job for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And being in the hospital a few days after, she talked about she want to start her own business because she don't want to get fired again. She got a second job, got fired. Same thing, laid off, they call it. Oh, we don't have enough hours for you. That's how they do it. We don't have enough hours. So anyway, she's like, you know what? People need to know what I go through when I have my crisis. She's like, Mom, I just want to raise awareness because people really don't understand. And I remember she's drawing in the hospital. And she's like, Mom, I wish I could just print it on a t-shirt. This is the result of what she came up with, right? This one says, what one am I wearing? It says sickle cell doctors. Is that what I'm wearing? Oh, sickle cell doesn't come with a manual. It comes from a mom that never gives up.
Yeah.
And after she started drawing this particular logos, from what I can remember, these are the hands that come together to work to help sickle cell. The wings are the fallen angels, like all the fallen sickle cell warriors. Mm-hmm. That's the whole cell, and that's the sickle cell, and that's the heart of the community coming together, working as one to support and help people with sickle cell. So me now, totally blown away and excited, running by Miss Biba. Miss Biba said, yes, I won the first one.
Yes, I was the first client.
Yes, she was the first client.
That sounds just like her.
we did it. My daughter have sickle cell apparel, and it's been around now for 3 years now, and it's an online business. She is the main graphic designer for the business, and she's in college for graphic designing. And we do a lot for the community. A lot of our proceedings from what we sell on our hoodies and t-shirts and water bottles, we donate to Biba's Association, the National Organization of Canada, yes. The National Association of Canada. So we donate funds to them each and every year.
Yes, towards research.
Yes, this is for
That's
research for sickle cell.
amazing. I
That's
love her
amazing.
creativity, the
Oh,
way that she thought that's forward thinking, right? It wasn't just in the moment, because
Yeah.
pain comes when you least expect it. And
Mhm.
often it stops you in your tracks of whatever you're doing or
Yes.
whatever course you're on. And her ability to say, okay, this may have slowed me down, but let me think of ways that I can keep going.
yes.
Mhm.
And that creativity really, it becomes, part of her healing, her wellness. That's part of her mental health, right?
Yes.
The better coping strategies you have, the better distractions, the healthy distractions are
Mhm.
really part of what keeps you healthier, right? And that's a big deal. By the way, please make sure you put her link in the chat so that
Yes.
we can support her business and buy her products.
Yes.
So because
So she has everything, and then everything she has is something that sickle cell warriors or parents can eat. Like the first thing when we launched the hydration campaign, there is a water bottle with the pill water bottle. That's my favorite. Where I think I did give you one.
you
Ray.
did. That's why I know I recognized the art, and I was like, "That's your daughter."
Yes, that's her daughter. So you have the T-shirt that says sickle cell awareness in the
Yes.
back. You have the T-shirt, you have the bag, you have everything from
I
them.
wore it the last day I was with you in Canada, and yes,
Yes.
it's amazing and it's beautiful. And
Beautiful.
our warriors, yes, they are stubborn. Like, let me return to that point, because they are. However, it's part of their resilience. They are stubborn because they've had to get back up when everybody else around them, it felt like, had given up, or they didn't have any other encouragement but themselves. And they've had to really create this strength around themselves. Sleepy, do you want to say anything? I see you on here. Can you hear me, Sleepy? You're on
Sleepy,
mute,
wake
though.
up.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I can hear you.
There you go. There you go. I think about, you're a young man with sickle cell disease, and, being the age that you are, you've had plenty of experiences where you weren't necessarily independent, but you weren't dependent. You created a family, and that became your support system. You want to say a little bit about that? Because I see your wife next to you, and tell her I said, hey.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hello.
we just leaving for my daughter's military
Ooh. Congratulations, dear.
thing. She in the JROTC program. Living with sickle cell, yes, it has been hard on me. Even though I have the support of my wife and my children to get me through my crises and my ups and downs. Lately, I just keep my head clear and just think about another day, and even though sometimes when I have a crisis, I do my own treatment at home. I got a 3-rule limit. I get in a hot shower, take a couple pain pills, smoke a little weed or whatever. I do it twice. If that don't work, then the third time, then I end up going to the ED, which I don't like going, because half the time they look at us different. And some doctors that's in the ED don't even know about sickle cell. So, it's like hard to explain to them. Some doctors get it and some doctors don't.
Absolutely. And while you're in pain in a crisis, that's a really difficult time to try to educate somebody about sickle cell.
That's the worst time.
That is not, and that's part of what I was saying earlier. The way that they ask all these questions, and the way that they have to, they don't have the knowledge, but nobody who's in that level of pain is in a state of mind to be able to give that extensive lesson.
Yes.
I'm here because your role is to provide help to those who need help. And we can talk about that after you get me out of some pain.
And guess what?
Right,
the question that I remember,
they look at us like we're coming in there just for the drugs.
Yeah.
And we know that, and we know that, and we're working very hard to address those things. And I will say this, it doesn't always trickle down to the community, but there's a lot of work happening behind the scenes to address those things.
Yes.
Now the projects and things that I'm on, it's more than just the education. We have to talk about the bias. We have to talk about, you know, the things that are influencing it. Because if you can make it through medical school, you can understand sickle cell. You have to choose to want to understand it. You have to choose to want to understand the individuals that it impacts. And you have to get outside of your own lived experiences, outside of your own biases, outside of your own assumptions. And you have to allow people to
Ray,
be
excuse
their
me.
authentic
You
self.
said something. Can you go back a bit?
Yes.
You said lived experiences. That term is something that drives our community, and I wanted to expand. I know you're talking about medical doctors, but when it comes to any comment, talk about lived experiences, people live with sickle cell disease and caregivers.
I agree. I mean, when we talk about, when you go into the hospital and you talk about lived experience, at that point is not the time to explain about sickle cell as much as it is about them understanding that their role, if it's to do no harm, there's harm in leaving people to suffer in pain. There is harm in that.
Yes.
The mental health that happens when you are left to suffer in pain and you feel helpless and hopeless, that is harm. And so I oftentimes think about, you know, this idea that we spend so much time educating, and we must continue to educate. Please don't misunderstand me.
Let me tweet this. I gotta stop you. There is harm in letting somebody suffer.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna tweet it. We have to tweet this.
There is harm. That is.
Yeah, we are more than our sickle cell.
Yeah.
Tweet it or put it in Instagram. We are more than our sickle cell, and know that there is harm in letting somebody.
That's exactly right. There is harm. And, you know, we know that let's keep it real. You know, Ray's real good at saying something she probably shouldn't have while she's on camera and it's recorded. However, here's what I'm going to say. I think that we can look at other groups in society who, when things get hard, we see some of the ways that they cope. We see you know, during times of economic downfall, when people begin to lose all of their stocks and bonds and all of that saving, you know, you got people jumping off of buildings. You've got people who have had back pain or have had a terrible accident, you know, who don't have the ability to cope through all of that pain and who choose to end their life. The fact that we are as strong as we are and resilient within the sickle cell community, and we still have to deal with individuals who represent communities that don't always cope well, but we're expected to accept whatever way we're treated. We know that there's a double standard, right? Let's just call that out. There's a double standard. And I don't care how many times you've been pregnant. I don't care how many times you've had, you know, kidney stones. I don't care how many times you've broke a rib or whatever the case may be. You know, the reality is that the intense pain of sickle cell disease will mess with anybody's mind. I didn't experience the pain, but watching my child in pain messed with my mind.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're not asking them to do TCDs. We're not asking them to do, you know, pulmonary function tests. We're asking them to relieve our pain.
Yes, that's all.
That's all we're asking.
And then when you are in the ER, there are two questions that no patient wants to hear is what's the level, you know, on a scale of 0 to 9, where 0 is minimal and then 10 is maximum.
I'm here because it's a 10. It's 11, 12, 13.
And the second question is, what type of sickle cell complication have you had so far? That's not the time, because when they start listing you the complication they've had, they don't have time. And my response is like, can you go check the file or liaise with the primary care provider? Those two things are what you should do.
But wait, I had a nurse ask me on the adult side when I was with my son, who gave this to him, you or his father?
Oh my God.
I've had that years
she
ago.
doesn't even
And
know.
I'm like,
and my son, even in pain, he did one of these. He looked one eye at me. He was like, how's she going to respond to that? Because he knows like that would have taken me over the edge. And I looked at him and I said, we're not going to do this right now.
No, not today. Not today.
And I said,
because half of the people that be in the ED, like the nurses and the doctors, I be ready to snap out on half of them. because they just like, oh, well, you just come in here just for the. I was like, look, woman, I'm in pain. Just give me something to kill this pain so I can go home. Give me some fluids so I can drink some water, whatever, just so I can get up out of here. Because in a minute, I'm gonna start cussing everybody out in a minute.
Well, and that's never
So,
that's never the answer. But what I
I know that's never the answer.
But what
that's never the answer.
But what I do believe is that just like in general society, there are still more good people than bad people. So yes, we interact with a lot of people who mistreat us. What we need to do is empower the people, the good people, to speak up. That's what I want to see more of. I want to see those who are quiet, those who, you know, when we had 9/11 and all of those different things that happen around the world, and if you see something, say something. I need the medical professionals who are around when they see the mistreatment, when they see something, say something.
Speak up. Yes.
Because otherwise it falls on, it's like us trying to teach the world to stop being racist.
That's
ain't on us, that's on y'all.
I just tweeted what you said. That's what you said makes sense also for those who know that it's wrong when they are standing there to speak up, because there is harm in letting somebody, you know.
And I've been blessed to meet those medical providers who do speak up. Biba, you know, you and I are in environments with other medical professionals all the time. They are the people who are speaking up. So yes. I always want to make sure.
For everybody.
What was that?
I have a question for everybody. April 25th, some fraternities, I guess they promote sickle cell. I went to it, and the guys they was real nice. They treated me with open arms, and I was telling them about my situation, and I had brought up the Sickle Cell Foundation. They was like, yeah, we're on board with them. And the guy, he said, Blaylark. I say, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And I said, every time I do it, I butcher her last name.
You're talking about the Omega Psi Phi. So they had a big thing here in the cities. And the Divine Nine. So those are fraternities, black fraternities and sororities, and they are becoming champions. Right. Oh. So our role as caregivers and as advocates is to spread that knowledge and to include more people who can advocate.
Yes.
That's what we have to do. We have to increase the number of voices who are advocating for better treatment. Yes. And then we have to recognize those who are in the medical system who are working on our behalf, because otherwise they begin to feel like it's an us versus them. And that's not it. We have to partner in the care of our community. That's what we work hard to do, is to partner in that care. And so, you know, as much as it may feel like we want to lash out, we have to know that there are things happening behind the scenes to address those individuals who really aren't caring for us in the way that we deserve.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do love the idea of us recognizing those, because yes, there are not a few of them, you know, all over the world globally that we know, you know, those physician advocates, nurse advocates, sometimes just simple advocates, simple citizens who will stand up, you know, in a situation where they know they can do something and speak up for us and support the cause. We need to recognize them. We need to work with them. We need to engage them, and then bring them to the table where they can help us change things for ourselves. So let's move on to this discussion now. Continue to talk about this raising and caring for someone with a chronic, debilitating disease. I want to know how everybody around the table here feels about the lack of unity in the community itself. Because this is one of the things that is harming us also. The sickle cell community it needs to be more united, because we are a huge force. If we were working together, setting the same priorities and pushing one priority at a time, we can get things done. But we have 1,000 priorities out there. There is no way no community can be successful that way. We need to come at the table, determined. We're working on newborn screening. We're working on access to hydroxyurea everywhere in the world. We're working on making sure that blood supplies are available everywhere.
Right.
We need to work on getting education for sickle cell warriors so that they can have a job, and be independent and be productive in their own life. All these type of priorities we have to set them for. We need to advocate for more research in sickle cell. We don't want people. Everybody is trying to live wherever they are to go to better person, looking for care. Care should go to people wherever they are.
Mhm.
No,
They don't have to leave their countries, their lands, looking for better care. Wherever they are, that's where the good care should be. And we can do that.
yes.
Because putting a transfusion program in any country in this world doesn't cost much. But we need to train the people, educate the community to donate blood, and that's it.
Yeah, Biba, I actually think that if we took a step back, I think that there are some pretty well-defined priorities. I don't think we've ever come together to call it out, right? I think that we're all talking about, the emergency room experiences. We're all talking about the blood shortages and the need to donate blood, and getting more diverse donors doing that. We're talking about, curative therapies and other disease modifying therapies. So when we take a step back, we're all doing it, but we are not on the same page of how to get it done. I don't know that we'll ever necessarily be on the same page, but what I do believe is that we have to have a united front.
Unmute yourself,
That
Biba.
in the house conversation and that out of the house conversation. Y'all hear me say it all the time. When you with your parents and they're like, and what goes on in this house, you don't talk about out there, right? And we have to learn how to address what's wrong out there and be able to address what's wrong in the house. And that is, how do we have a conversation? We all want to get to the same result. How do we get on similar pages of how to get there? More of a strategy. We don't have strong strategy.
We don't have
works against us.
Exactly.
And then we have to understand that there has always been this idea from more oppressive people to divide and conquer. And when we understand that we will be the victims of that over and over and over again, what it should do is push us towards how to work better together.
Yes.
KW, I seen that you had something you wanted to add. You got 3 minutes, KW.
I think I need to take 30 seconds. If I go further, I might take 3 hours. Listen, that is to me, I have a 5-step thing, but I don't remember all 5 steps now. I'm a young man, so memory is catching up. But working within the community is we have to implode our strength. We have to really build from within. And if we are to take power into our own hands, then what I found growing up, I was what's the word, boy? I was literally held together by nutrition, because in the 60s there was folic acid, and then figure it out. My parents used the initiative. I don't know what they did to come up with a lot of these solutions that they have, but I've lived to, thank God, to listen to a project in Uganda that took care of young children for a year, using nutrition only, more like tubular stuff, greens and so on. You all know the name Tamika mostly, of course, yeah. And whatever we have in our territory, whatever part of the world, we have control over seeing how much we can do with nutrition until we can get access to all those amazing drugs out there. So it is one way of taking control. Now, why it is we have different priorities could stem from the fact that every decade, well, this is my experience, every decade the way body deals with condition, or the condition deals with you. Again, also in retrospect, because I've been on the platform for like the last 5 years, you'll have a lot more experience than I do talking about this thing. It changes. So my last hospitalization, I realized that you also realize that when you're persons with sickle cell and pain, there are certain positions that I would take. Mostly popular positions are crouching and rocking. That no longer works for me. I have to find a new position. If I don't go into crisis very often. I mean, admissible crisis to the hospital. So the control can start with finding what works for yourself here. And
I think more importantly, KW, is how do we as a community begin to be of the same mind? How do we work together and not just for I think we struggle. Sickle cell disease takes away your power, right? Yes. And so you oftentimes feel helpless. You oftentimes feel like there's nothing that you can control. So to your point, there are personal things that you can control. But when we step out, we are, as a community, we have to be unified in our approaches to deal with the challenges that we face. And what I've watched over 25 years is that every single thing that people bring forward is an important issue. But how do we do that from a global sense in a more unified way? And your issue may not be the top issue today, but it may be the top issue tomorrow. And people push very hard for their issue to be the top issue today.
Yeah, and you have to sit at the table to push that issue that is not yours.
Let me answer a question. All you all with children, if you're, and this is in the videos, you're working inside, you're thinking in silos, but operating and collectively. If each of your children, if each of the millions of people here can find what works for them, and they find themselves healthier daily, then they have more time to connect, even the caregivers, because I know you're the main drivers of the advocacy and so on. But if you find yourself healthier more often, then the ability to come together should be better for everybody, do you think?
Of course.
Thank you for saying that.
That's the thing that I've seen in my small time with our community here in Trinidad and Tobago. We have probably 10,000 people living with the condition. That's full blown. And without data to prove it, we could have
10,000?
About
10,000?
Between 6 to 10. No, our global rate for Africans and Indians are 1 in 10. Our highest population here is of 1.5 million people. Africans and Indians, 78% of the population has 1.2 million people. 10% of that is 100,000 too. 6% of that gives you about 10,000 people. I have no proof.
Yeah.
I have no proof. But the point is that if we can create from within the household, which is where the project I have engaged, you go to the households and engage them to live better. 5 things: self-care, testing, blood donation, optimal care at private and public institutions, and then family integrated care. This is what we're doing tonight. Family integrated care. Those 5 steps, if each family can come together, gel, then we start infecting the community with the health. This is just my simplistic concept.
Oh, absolutely. And all of those things are absolutely important. How do we come together? Listen, we're talking about the most common genetic condition in the world. In the world.
That is still considered a rare disease.
Well, it's considered a rare disease in America, particularly, right? Because it affects less than 200,000 individuals, or so they say. In other countries, I don't know what their threshold is for considering it a rare disease. So I can't speak to that. But my point is, if we could, this is why we're doing this show. If we could come together globally, if we could come together globally, just the sheer numbers of individuals who have disease, and then you add in trait, you're talking about 300 million people.
Of course. There. India has about 3 million, 2 to 3 million people affected.
That are living with the disease.
The disease.
The trait.
Not the trait, the disease.
The disease.
That tells you Nigeria.
So we all came together. And by the way, we have to do our part to help people with sickle cell trait to understand they are part of the sickle cell community.
Yes.
That's going to increase our numbers exponentially.
You guys are the most important part of the equation. I'm saying it openly now. People with sickle cell trait are the most important. We get most of
we have
attention.
Undervalued their impact in the community.
Yes.
Well, don't say there, say our.
Our impact.
Yeah, because I got trait
you and I and Adobie,
We are not that important when I look at the remember in 2050, the numbers go by 30% if we don't slow the rate down. 30%.
30%, yes, in 2050, according to the
If you
United.
could grow your finances like that every year, okay, cool. But why would you want to allow this condition to grow like that?
So we must unify globally. We
Yes.
must.
We must.
must.
There is no other way out of this
That's right.
if we don't unify.
No other
We're
way
gonna
out.
continue to work like this, but we are
Right.
not gonna get anywhere to have an impact on the quality of life of people who are suffering. You
And
know,
Now, let me make a suggestion quickly. Check me 30 seconds. You all identify data as a key driver. Or everybody here represents a different organization. There are people like ASVI, there's the Sickle Cell Community Consortium. Point making that several organizations, if we can get the data, rather than getting people together, can we get the data together and get the numbers that Corey is saying that the study is saying you have 200,000, maybe more than that, but we need to pound them. If the data is presented, do you think that your experience it will make a difference to those people who are decision makers, policy makers, and implementers?
that's what I've been saying.
It's the data, right?
Yes.
No, I used to use this term. I used to use this saying when I was in the clinic: no data, no dollars, no research, no cure. The way most societies have created themselves to operate institutionally is through data. And unfortunately, we don't always, so whether we're not getting care through a primary care provider or a hematologist, whether we are not, filling out our forms for the census, when we don't represent,
Then we
not
don't get
counted in data.
So wait, one of the things that I want us now to just all realize is that the fact that we don't have that data available and we are not advocating for it, it's harming us. But also it is what it's being used to keep us with the bad care that we are receiving.
Yes.
So until we raise and say we need the data, because what is the data going to be? It's going to show the numbers, and democracy, it's about numbers. The minute we realize, oh, we are that many, and we can change every decision if we stand up and vote, it's going to change. And also, then we can show the quality of the care with the data. Because when we talk about data, we talk about registries, we talk about how you can show the disease burden and the quality of the care. And then things can change, because then we can take evidence-based data, stand up and advocate for ourselves better. But now in the community, we have 10,000 stories of horror that happen in the emergency care department. We have 10,000 stories of how painful sickle cell is, but we are not able to take it in the type of data that can be taken seriously, because we don't have it. And unless we understand that, and we stand for it, and we work to get it, we are not going to change things for ourselves.
I agree. And we have to not only learn how to work together. Hang on, KW. We have to not only learn how to work together as the sickle cell community, we also have to learn how to work within other communities as well. So you have the rare disease community, right?
Yes.
The rare disease, we are part of the rare disease community. How we work together with them. I think one of the things that frustrate me the most is when you see other groups that come in that outshine, the work that we're doing. There's a reason for that, and that we won't even have time to go into. So how do we link with those who tend to seemingly have more influence in systems without losing sight of who we are and without allowing them to take control of us, right? But that has to happen first, where we unify.
Yes.
We have to unify.
We have to unify first before we can do that.
Otherwise, the divide and conquer will happen.
Exactly. So we are way over 8 o'clock. And as we know, this warrior mom works at night. So she needs to get time to have dinner, prepare, and drive to her work, and then, go do her magic right there.
Absolutely.
It's such a passionate discussion every time we come around this table. And I'm really hoping that we're going to continue to have all of you. If you are not a guest next month, Adobie, I hope you come here, and be part of the crowd and share more. Ray, there is a small project that Adobie and I have been we're working on, and I would like for her to share it. you and I have been thinking that we would like for people coming to this discussion to live with something one day. Remember?
Yes.
Well, recently I have a very close friend of mine who she's an artist, she's a painter, and she's battling cancer. To go through, this pain and everything. So she's always painting, drawing. And one day I woke up and then saw her tag me on this beautiful painting that she called Biba the Warrior. I loved it. And I took it and she gave it to me. She said, it's yours. I made it for you when I was just in a sleepless night. And I look at it and I say, this shouldn't only stay on my walls. It has to be seen by the entire world. But how am I going to get it to be seen? Of course, I called my most creative person in the world. And this is what she came up with. Show them. Can you show?
Can you guys see it?
Oh, look at that. Warrior. Oh, my.
Warrior Mom.
see
Oh,
that?
my goodness.
So
Let me try to get the good
she
light.
put it on a mug.
Wait, I
Yes.
have to
So that's the
spot-
painting, Warrior
spotlight
Mom.
that. There we go. Put it on the, there we go. So even if I talk,
You
it'll
see
still
it?
show you.
Yes.
Look at that.
Look how beautiful it is. Turn it around.
That's
Oh,
that
she-
represents warrior. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Warrior Mom.
Is that
So
on
we
the
have our
website?
Warrior
Can
Mom
I
mug.
order 10 of them?
And she made two, the blue background and the white background.
Yes, we call this one the natural warrior mom.
Mom, and the other one is the sassy warrior.
And
Wow.
then there's this one.
And there is another one. She made two paintings. Look at this one.
Wow. Okay, that purple. Okay. Is it on the website? That's what I need to know. 'Cause
It's
I'm
not on the website yet because I just literally finished working on these yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not on the website yet. Adobie had a crisis 2 days ago, so
Oh.
she's just on the downside right now. But as soon as she's feeling a little bit better, it's going to be up on the website because I am not that techie gaji.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
the-
I want
the techie
everybody to
person.
order one because we're gonna just everybody's gonna drink their coffee, their tea, their water, because warriors have to hydrate all day. And we're gonna use this because it's so beautiful. And I said, I'm not gonna keep it for myself. I have my own mug, but I want the entire world to see this beautiful painting. And this artist, it's gonna be a way also to celebrate her talent because she's still battling cancer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But she was so happy, and I think she's going to receive her own mugs just soon, and she'll be so
I'm shipping them
surprised that
tomorrow.
yes, tomorrow. So I didn't only keep them for myself. I said, let's put them in something that can be useful in every single hand.
I love that. And just to wrap things up, what I want to really make sure that we are really making clear is that we are an empowered people. Our voice does matter. What we have to say is from that lens of a lived experience. So whether you are a person living with sickle cell disease or you are caring for someone, remember we said earlier, it's not just moms that care for someone with sickle cell disease. It's also partners. It's also the children or of lots of different ages. But it's important that we create community. It's important that we create a unified front, and it shouldn't be different from continent to continent. When we work together, we work together. That unity in the community crosses boundaries, it crosses borders, it crosses oceans. And we have to recognize that we are stronger together than apart. And so I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be in a room that represents global sickle cell disease. We have Canada here. We have Africa here, different nations in Africa. We have Trinidad and Tobago here. I mean, we have North America, United States. We are represented. And so what we have to do is that we have to work to bring others. We have to work to make sure that we continue in the mindset of global advocacy. Not individual advocacy, global advocacy. I might run a local sickle cell disease foundation, but we represent a global community.
Yes.
And
we have to stay connected. That's the only way that we can, from one person to another, share experience, share knowledge, also support each other, right? And create that community sense, and then bring the unity that we're working on by connecting with each other, regardless of our geographical position.
So I want to say one quick thing to both Biba and Ray, all
Yeah.
the people that you know that write diaries, and a lot of us diarize, that's where our data lives. We are living data. So while we want to make it formal, we can start with what we have. That's what I meant by nutrition. And Ray, that one lived experience, that cuts me very deep, because we take for granted, like right now, my body is transitioning to a small pain crisis because I was in Hudson today, plain man, but we write everything down, what you did, and how you worked in it. So once you present that to your group or any group, you can start, someone could start extrapolating that into the formal start. So get the people start writing and seeing their diaries as a key component. You don't have to be formal starting one.
I agree.
My suggestion.
Yes,
Journaling,
you are the living data right
Yes,
there.
I tell
You are
them.
absolutely right.
You are
I love that.
absolutely. I
You're
love
absolutely
the
right.
term living data. And I tell my son all the time, he does this. Journaling is one of the things he does. I said, put the date, how it started, what happened, and what helped you the most. I said, sometimes you can forget, but you can get back to it and say, that day I tried this and it worked. And
Yes.
also you can also get back to it. And sometimes they ask you, well, when did you start having these headaches? If you wrote it, you can go back and know exactly how many weeks, how many months, and how frequent, the symptoms are.
Well,
Ray, I think we have to wrap up because it's 8:30.
It's 7:30 here, 8:30 there, and whatever
5:30
time,
here.
wherever you're at, 4 or 5:30. Yes. So thank you for joining us. We're so grateful. I'm going to end the same way I did last month. Next month, well, number one, you can register for next month already. It's up on the website. This is a monthly community conversation, global community conversation.
Every month.
When you come back, bring somebody with you.
Yeah.
Tell
sure
somebody
will.
and
Bring somebody or
with
share
you.
it.
Yes.
That's how we grow, right? We can't keep it to ourselves. We have to tell others, hey, I'm involved in this global conversation. And we have really straight up, transparent conversations. We call things out. We talk about being right and we talk about being wrong. So bring somebody with you next month. It is the second Thursday of every month. I will let me put the link to next month's in the chat. I will absolutely do that so that you all can get registered. And then, as I said, don't forget to invite someone next month.
Yes.
We are gonna be here and we want to see you.
As you can see, everybody can participate. You can talk, you can text, you can put your questions in here, and we can talk
I'm adding it right now to my diary.
Yes.
Excellent.
Good. And you can do it right before going to work.
Oh, sorry.
I have it on my agenda.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad.
Good. And hopefully by next month, everybody is gonna have their Warrior Mom mug in their hands.
Awesome.
And they'll be drinking from it. We are supporting ourselves, our own businesses, our own cause, so we have to.
Yes.
So Ray said she wanted to order 10 of them, right?
People heard that.
Oh, Biba.
Did you hear that when she said that Adobie, right?
Okay.
I already wrote it down. People, look.
You wrote it?
So everyone is sitting in the next meeting for April 25th for the next Sickle Cell rally.
April 25th. Well, we're all over the country. We're all over the country, Sleepy. So where are you talking about? And you have to be sure to say where.
Hey, Ray.
The fraternity you were telling me about.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of that. Yes.
Hey,
Here
Ray.
in Minnesota. Go. Who's talking? Jerron?
Oh yes. The link, it says the event is unavailable.
I know. I'm working on it as we speak, literally. Because I spoke too soon. It's created, but it's not public. So I'm working on making it public.
Okay.
Adobie did send her, she shared her email and her telephone number in the chat.
Yes.
Have you guys seen it? You did share it to everyone. Her telephone number is there. She's on WhatsApp and her email.
I can't get a number off the chat. I'll give email to me. I can't get it off the chat.
You can't get.
Cannot know.
Write
Okay,
it
so-
down.
Can I send it to you via a direct message?
Let's see, where is
Can you email it to me, please?
KW, how did you find this? How did you find, oh, you mean the, her email?
How did I find this?
How did you
chat?
find this event?
I follow you guys. You just don't know that. I follow you.
Because I put it on
I've
LinkedIn, I
never
put it
so
on
followed you.
Facebook.
Well, oh yeah,
That's
and
true.
you're on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
By the way, Jerron's on LinkedIn too. So you
Okay,
all,
Jerome, I'll go look for you, okay?
it, man? I gotta get on
You and I have to
LinkedIn.
connect.
I gotta get on this LinkedIn.
Okay,
you have
all
to.
right. All right. Just follow my name and it's in LinkedIn. So,
Okay, I'll look for you today.
okay.
okay, okay, hang on 1 second. And the event is live. You can click on the link now, y'all.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Okay. Gotcha.
So we look forward to seeing you next month. This is always an open conversation. If you are interested in particular topics, please go ahead and email us. And we are open to having many conversations. We have some great things on the horizon. Biba and I have been talking about some amazing, amazing things in ways that we can continue to grow this global conversation. So we appreciate it. Bring your partner, bring your spouse, bring your auntie, uncle, cousin. Come on, let's create community in the way that we need to, and let's be a healthy community. Let's bring that unity in the community.
Yes.
All right.
All
Okay.
right.
I don't know
All
what I
right.
did, but I can't see anybody. Oh,
All right.
We see.
All right.
okay.
See
I'm back.
everybody next month.
All
Thank
right.
you so
See
much.
everybody
See
next
y'all
month.
up. See y'all soon.
Goodbye.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.